Hello there, welcome to this edition of Global Business Africa from the Kenyan capital Nairobi. It's 9 p.m. over here, 10 in the morning in Beijing, China, 2 in the afternoon in Washington, D.C., wherever you're joining us from. Welcome. We've got plenty coming up for you in the next 30 minutes. American goodies. We'll be looking at the deals signed at the US-Africa Leaders Summit. We'll be delving into a ruling that forced Kenya's dominant telecoms operator to share its mobile money transfer agents network. And we'll be talking about incinerators in Uganda that have made medical waste disposal so much safer and more effective. Let's start, however, in the United States, where American and African companies, as well as the World Bank, have collectively pledged over $17 billion in investments at a summit which ends today. Let's start with the numbers. General Electric, it announced it will be spending $2 billion on infrastructure, worker skills and access to energy projects. Dangote Group President Aliko Dangote, he signed an agreement to jointly invest $5 billion in energy projects in sub-Saharan Africa, along with Blackstone. The World Bank committed $5 billion to support electricity generation, estimating that about 600 or so million people in Africa don't have access to electricity. Coca-Cola said it would invest $5 billion with African bottling partners in new manufacturing lines over 6 years, while IBM said it would sink over $2 billion into the region over the next 7 years. Walmart's chief executive said that the retailer's $2.6 billion investment in the region in 2011, when it bought a majority stake in the South African retail chain Massmart, was, quote, just the beginning, end of quote. Collectively, African countries are expected to have a larger workforce than China or India by 2040 and to have the world's fastest growing middle class supporting demand for consumer goods. African telecoms billionaire Mo Ibrahim encouraged American companies to invest in African countries, but he said they should also, quote, pay their taxes. Now, the US president has said his country will not merely seek to extract minerals from Africa for its growth, but it would seek to create partnerships that create jobs and opportunity for all to hopefully power the next era of African growth. Here's CCTV's Susan Mongelli with more.
The deals announced on Tuesday included several joint ventures between US and African partners in construction, energy, banking and information technology.
American companies are announcing major new deals in Africa. Blackstone will invest in African energy projects. Coca-Cola will partner with Africa to bring clean water to its communities. GE will help build African infrastructure. Marriott will build more hotels. All told, American companies, many with our trade assistance, are announcing new deals in clean energy, aviation, banking, and construction worth more than $14 billion, spurring development across Africa and selling more goods stamped with that proud label, Made in America.
Addressing African and business leaders at US-Africa Business Forum, President Barack Obama said US companies were ready to seize opportunities in the continent, which is home to 6 of the world's 10 fastest growing economies.
Africa needs capital. In some cases, Africa needs technical assistance. Africa certainly needs access to markets. But perhaps the biggest thing that Africa is going to need to unleash even more the potential that's already there and the growth that's already taking place is laws and regulations and structures that empower individuals and are not simply designed to control or empower those at the very top.
More than 90 US companies participated in the forum, part of a 3-day summit which has brought almost 50 African leaders to the US capital, including Chevron Corp, Citigroup, Ford Motor, Lockheed Martin Corporation, Marion International and Morgan Stanley. The International Monetary Fund predicts that Africa will see economic expansion of 5.8% in 2014. In 2009, China surpassed the US as Africa's biggest trading partner, and the United States is hoping to do some catching up. Susan Mongelli, CCTV.
The US will be investing nearly $500 million to modernize Ghana's power sector as part of efforts to help it attract more private sector investment. Its Secretary of State John Kerry and Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama signed the Ghana Power Compact earlier today as the largest US government-funded transaction of the Power Africa program. The Millennium Challenge Corporation, that's the US government's independent foreign aid agency, will provide the funding. The deal is expected to attract well over $4 billion in private energy investment from American and global energy firms. Ghana will be putting $37.4 million of its own money into the plan.
Ghana's second compact is another link in the long chain of friendship between our countries. And the first compact helped to pave highways and supported farmers in the export market. This second compact will transform the energy sector and help to provide reliable power.
I wish to express our immense gratitude to the government of the United States of America and the people of America for partnering with Ghana through these laudable initiatives. I thank you, and God bless Ghana. God bless the United States of America.
Let's bring you up to speed with the latest developments. CCTV's Gurum Challa has been covering the US-Africa summit ever since it started on the 4th of August. He's live with us now from Washington, D.C. Gurum, based on the discussions at the summit, is the US likely to renew AGOA and demand reciprocal access in the same way the EU has done with EPAs, or is that something African countries are lobbying against?
Good evening, Rama, from Washington, D.C., where the US-Africa summit is now underway. As you said, the AGOA itself has been asked by African leaders to be renewed. You have heard Jacob Zuma talking about it because it's important for Africa's growth, the growth that we are seeing in the continent. And also other leaders are asking for the same thing. But the question is, will AGOA be the same AGOA that we knew since 2001? The answer is no, because things should change now. Africa wants more engagements. Africa wants more partnership with the US, not exporting raw materials only. On the second aspect, Africa is not selfish as well. Africa wants the US companies to benefit from their investments in this continent. So the AGOA is likely to be extended. As you also understand, Rama, that it's always reauthorized every 7 years, and the US Congress people also, some of them want to change that and make it permanent. So yeah, the feel of it is renewal is going to come with robust economic ties coming to Africa as well from the US.
Indeed. Gurum, let's focus, however, on the fact that Africa does lose billions of dollars every single year through illicit outflows of funds, and most of that happens through trade misinvoicing. So has that problem received any attention at the summit amid all these announcements of billions of dollars that's going to be invested across Africa?
Robert, this is a critical issue because whenever let alone at the government level, whenever a private sector investment comes to any country, they also always consider this thing called corruption or illicit financial flows or mismanagements of finance in the investment sector. So this is a critical issue. The US wants to support Africa technically or in training forums to make people understand that this is going to hurt the continent's benefits at the end of the day. And also this is a critical problem. African Union is working on it. The UN Economic Commission for Africa is working on it. At the moment, President Thabo Mbeki is working to make countries in Africa understand the problem and the effect itself. So here on the US-Africa Summit, it's been raised, but in general terms of corruption, illicit financial flows, and also other administrative problems. Now, the US wants to continue investing in Africa. You understand that something that people do not understand is the US is the biggest investment partner in Africa still. Chinese are the biggest trading partners. They took it from the US the other time. So for that huge investment to continue, there should be a security in form of countries acting in the right way. So these problems of corruption and illicit financial flows are raised, and they want to stop that from happening so that the Africa-US relationship can work for both parties, Rama.
Indeed, we'll have to leave it there. But that's CCTV's Gurum Challa in Washington, D.C. He's got plenty of content, however, to keep tabs on our coverage for more. Let's move on to East Africa now. Kenya's competition authorities pushed Safaricom into opening up its vast network of mobile money agents to rival service providers. In January last year, Kenya's competition watchdog started investigations into anti-competitive behavior by Safaricom. At the time, Airtel's Kenyan subsidiary had argued to CAK that Safaricom's contract with over 80,000 mobile money agents effectively barred them from doing business with any other mobile service provider, and CAK agreed. A settlement between the three parties was arrived at in May this year. But what exactly is at stake here? Well, let's run through the numbers. 73% of Kenya's registered mobile money users are on Safaricom's network. Over 63% of those 19+ million individuals are active users. In contrast, however, Airtel has about 27 million registered mobile money users across the 17 countries in which it operates in Africa. Only 3.5 million of them, roughly 13%, are classified as being active by the firm. Now, the Competition Authority's ruling has run into quite a bit of criticism and acclaim in equal measure. To get to the heart of the matter, I'm now joined by Mr. Angombe Kariuki. He's the Director General of Kenya's Competition Watchdog. Thank you for your time this evening.
Welcome.
Walk us through the business rationale for Safaricom not to have exclusive access with this agent network. After all, they built most of it. They had a first mover advantage. So why should they open it up to other individuals? Why can't Airtel, for example, invest in their own network?
Thank you, Rama. And to share with you is that any modern competition law in the world, and Kenya right now we have a modern competition law, it has provisions on horizontal restraints on trade and also vertical restraints on trade. The exclusivity agreements are part of what are referred as vertical restraints in trade. And horizontal restraints and vertical restraints are not treated the same. Vertical restraints, which I have told you exclusivity agreements lie under that, we treat them under what we refer to as the rule of reason, because they can be disadvantageous to the competition process because they can allow, as you have indicated, the first mover advantage to foreclose the market. And that was the competition rationale for agreeing with Safaricom that they have to open up their network.
Let me put something to you that came out in the statement from CAK. You argued that the effects needed to evaluate these vertical agreements between Safaricom and its agents are, and I'm quoting you here, cumbersome to prove. So when we look at it from the perspective of the consumer, how then do we tell them that the fact that Safcom may have had or did have exclusive agreements with 80,000 agents for the last 7+ years has been disadvantageous to you? How do we actually prove that?
Rama, I think we were not quoted properly. The issue is that we were balancing between the horizontal restraints, which I have shared with you, an argument between two competitors. When they agree, is that the object is to reduce competition. But when there is the service provider and its distribution network, is that within the law is that you have to prove it with the effects on competition. So the issue of proving the effects of competition is that you have to define, is it the effect to the consumer or it's the effect to the other service providers? So whatever we were quoted on is that it was based on looking at the object and the effect. But obviously when we look at that kind of arrangement, what kind of effect was it having on consumers? Is that, assume where I come from northern part of Kenya, we have only one person who is capable of becoming an agent of the service provider. And the first mover comes and tells that guy that you cannot interact with anybody else, that you only interact with me. And we have other consumers who are using different lines of with the person who has been contracted by this first mover. What will happen to that consumer?
But wouldn't the argument then be made that the market is the ultimate arbiter of whether or not a product can succeed or not? As a client, I can choose to go with Safaricom, I can choose to go with Airtel. So at what point does the government then come in and tell me, look, Safaricom has a successful product proposition here, but we believe that this network has to be open to Airtel. There's nothing stopping Airtel from going out there and setting up their own network.
The issue is that, and I wanted to share with you, the party you have mentioned never presented was that they invested in that network.
Which party, Airtel or Safcom?
Safcom never presented any documents that they have invested in that network. It's just a matter of coming to Wangombe Karaoke and telling Wangombe Karaoke, I have an agreement with you, but don't serve any other person. What kind of investment have you put there?
But surely,
they
Mr.
never
Karaoke
showed any statistics that they collected Wangombe Karaoke from the streets, set a shop for him, and gave him business.
But you're creating an entirely new industry from scratch here, Mr. Karaoke. Before Safaricom came up with M-Pesa, mobile money was completely unknown. This is a company that spent 10 billion shillings in commissions to its agents last year. How can we say they never actually invested in this network?
I've not said they never invested. What I've said is that they never presented any kind of data or information. And what I know is that up to the time I've left the office, Safaricom have not appealed against that decision. And in fact, they were part and parcel of this process of agreeing to this settlement. And number two is that if at all, and the Competition Authority recognizes innovation, but if at all you are the first mover in any business, you should not all the time enjoy that incumbency advantage where you dominate the market and that market is foreclosed from other potential entrants. At the end of the day, who is losing? It's the consumer, because you'll be able to dominate the market and have the market power, and you can set prices at any time, at any rate you want to set.
Indeed. Fascinating conversation, Mr. Karaoke. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. We'll make another slot here for this conversation to continue.
Thank you very much.
Right, that of course has been Mr. Wangombe Karaoke. He's the Director General of the Competition Authority here in Kenya. Let's make a quick run through the markets here for you, see what the equity markets have been doing. Relatively mixed today, if you will, across the markets. The all-share index in Nigeria marginally high. The JSE in South Africa down by almost a 4 percentage point. However, the EGX 30 and the NSE 20 in Kenya all the way up in positive territory, up by about 0.4%. Global Business continues. We'll be taking you up north to look at Egypt's ambitious plan to expand the Suez Canal without external support. Stay with us.
The rebasing of Nigeria's GDP has been a long time in coming.
The information provides us much more scope to know what the structure of the economy is.
Welcome back. Egypt's president inaugurated the new Suez Canal development project from the city of Ismailia, east of Cairo. 14 international groups submitted their tenders for the planning of the mega project. After 6 months of bid evaluations, the winning consortium was announced on Tuesday. It's led by Dar El Handasa Engineering in alliance with the Egyptian military. On What's Hot tonight, Yasser Hakim takes a look at the project and its importance to the wider Egyptian economy.
The Egyptian president calls it the Dream Project. An ambitious plan to dig 37 kilometers of waterway across the Suez Canal, as Sisi placed a one-year target to complete digging rather than the original 3 years deadline.
There is no time to waste. We are lagging way behind. We have a lot of work to do to pull this country back on its feet.
The second phase will see the operation of marine service companies for ships crossing the canal. 3 new seaports, 2 airports and several industrial zones will be established along the area. 5 fully developed cities will be constructed to accommodate the workers who will move into the Suez Canal. Another 5 touristic towns will be put in place to make use of the sunny weather all year round and the beautiful beaches of the Red Sea. Many were skeptical as a project like this will be too expensive for an ailing Egyptian economy. The first phase, the digging, will cost about $10 billion. It will be totally funded by Egyptians.
Sinai is a sensitive issue for Egyptians. It relates to our national security. That's why only Egyptians will fund the digging and own the Suez Canal. No foreigners at all. Egyptian companies will dig. Only Egyptian banks and the Egyptian people will have shares in it.
It will float in the stock market at £100 per share. Egyptian expats will pay $100 and students at £10 per share. Industries, trade real estate and tourism will be open to local and international companies.
This project shows a new shift in the direction of funding and of the way the government is going to do projects in the future. The stock market may stop being a way for people to simply transfer ownership to a way of raising money for real development projects, as it is in more economically developed countries. This is definitely a move in the right direction.
The government estimates the project will employ over 2 million people over 5 years. What the Egyptian president hopes is that the people respond to his call and buy into his new dream.
It's the beginning of a new mega project, but it's not the only one. El-Sisi promised that there are other massive plans underway. A new capital and the irrigation of 4 million fidans of land. Yasser Hakim for CCTV, Cairo.
Let's dig deep into that story with Rami Mofta. He's a member of the board at Synergy Capital Markets. Is live in Cairo right now. Mr. Mofta, the cost estimate for this new canal is at least $4 billion. Exactly how will this be funded?
Well, partly it will be funded through the Tahya Masr Fund, which was established, the Long Live Egypt Fund, which was established by the president a few months ago. And the rest will come through the stock market, through the Egyptian stock market. The stock market will now become have a pivotal role in raising funds for large development projects such as this into the future. This seems like the new direction that the government is taking. So Egyptians will be able to own these mega projects through the stock market.
Indeed. Mr. Mofta, however, look, from an external perspective, what exactly is the business rationale for having the Egyptian army oversee the construction of the dam? Isn't this something that the private sector ought to be doing?
Well, with an economy such as Egypt, where the armed forces have a very large economic sector and have a lot of experience in developing roads and of digging various canals. Now, don't forget that the last expansion of the Suez Canal, which was in 2010, the army was involved in that, as well as some of the Egyptian companies. So they have a lot of experience. The armed forces have a lot of experience in managing large, complex projects. And the way it is envisioned is that the armed forces would oversee the process, but would not be the only player. They would be part of a consortium. They would oversee the process, make sure that things are running smoothly. Also, the area in which the digging will happen is one that is very sensitive to Egyptian security. So the armed forces needs to be involved anyways in parts of the security of the project and so on. So actually there is a business rationale in getting the armed forces involved, and it will contribute further to the development of the economic sector within the armed forces and getting more revenues for that sector, which is an aim that the government seems to have.
Indeed. Thank you very much for that. That's Rami Mofta. He's a member of the board of Synergy Capital Markets there live for us in Cairo. Let's make a quick run through the commodity prices off the back of the news there from the Suez Canal. A fairly positive day, except, however, for coffee. Marginal decline in the price of that commodity, but everyone else, however, is looking up. When we come back, we'll be looking at incinerators made in Uganda. They're making medical waste disposal so much safer, effective, and profitable. The details are coming up next. At 18:24 GMT, you're watching Global Business Africa from the Kenyan capital, Nairobi. Now let's move on to Uganda. Incinerators made out of stainless steel are helping some hospitals around the East African nation to dispose of the medical waste properly. Many Ugandan hospitals, you see, have traditionally have used brick-lined incinerators that run on either costly diesel fuel or firewood. And energy experts warn that incinerators of that kind don't burn medical waste properly. And as Isabel Nakiri reports, that's both a problem and an opportunity.
It's locally made using stainless steel. Incinerators made out of this type of material do not rust easily, and when heated, it raises temperatures fast. The new technology means there are not harmful gas emissions.
The unique thing with our MAC incinerator, it has got 3 chambers within it. It has got the primary chamber where you load the solid waste and it burns, and then the gaseous waste goes to the secondary and the tertiary chambers for complete combustion.
A few hospitals in Uganda are now using this type of incinerator to dispose of medical waste. Temperatures of about 800 degrees can be achieved by this type of incinerator, unlike those that are built out of fire bricks. Energy experts say at such high temperatures, all types of medical waste can be burnt without releasing poisonous gases to the atmosphere. Many Ugandan health facilities lack proper means of disposal of healthcare waste, largely due to the cost of new incinerators. The Health Ministry welcomes the innovation and are seeking guidance from the committee that procures new equipment.
In the ministry, we are in a discussion to make sure that we scale quality services to the population of Uganda, and we want to make sure that health facilities, first of all, they have the best standards. They're able to provide quality, and I am sure having incinerators in the health units that are required to have the incinerators is a way to provide quality services.
A large number of public health facilities still use the fire-brick incinerators, which are not cost-effective. Firewood or diesel are used to burn the waste, and the gases they produce are detrimental to the environment.
Such gases, it's one of the causes of say, a certain type of cancer within our bodies. And it's not that when you have just inhaled in that it affects you, but if even to the plants around, once they take in such gases, you'll find that the food chain is contaminated.
The new incinerators are much more environmentally friendly.
Basically, this incinerator, it's a fuel-free incinerator. The way it works, you begin burning with the non-infectious waste. That is waste paper. Normally such waste is contained in the black bags. That's what you start with. So that one acts as the fuel.
With proper maintenance, a steel-made incineration is supposed to emit colorless smoke. Uganda's Ministry of Health says the plan to install quality incinerators in all public health facilities is underway. Isabel Nakiria, CCTV, Kampala.
As far as the currencies are concerned, the trends we've observed over the last couple of days are essentially still broadly intact. The Naira slipping by about 0.4% on imported dollar demand, the shilling's relatively steady, and the rand did firm up marginally. Now, here's what you can expect on this show tomorrow. The EU has allocated €415 million for the first phase of the Pan-African programme that aims to support integration efforts on the continent. We'll dig into that in a little more detail. And we'll also be looking at changing trends in growing Ethiopia's national grain of teff. Fascinating stuff, also quite yummy. But that's it for this edition of Global Business Africa. Send us your feedback on the programme at globalbusinessafrica@cctv.com and wherever you are online. Facebook, Twitter, you name it, we're there. We'll stay in touch and feed you news 24/7. Thank you for watching. I'm Ramanya.